What is going on, YouTube Packers fans and NFL fans alike? It's your boy Lucas with the Big Go Pack Go channel. Here we are basically gonna recap the entire draft, and I was gonna do a separate video for the day 3, but I just thought I'd include them in this entire thing. So, going from top to bottom, from the very first pick all the way down to the last one, just haven't done my homework on these guys throughout the day. Been just watching a few things from them, reading up on them, basically gathering up my own final ideas and things, because I had seen a bunch of these players play. Just a few that were I didn't know about, and I had heard things, but I didn't know about them. I didn't know much about them, but this draft was exciting. So let's dive right on in and start with the number 22 overall pick, Quay Walker. Honestly, I know this one came as a huge shock to every possible fan out there, and even if you weren't a Packers fan, everybody knew they needed a wide receiver, and everybody's expecting them to have traded up to a wide receiver, grab a wide receiver, or maybe trade around or do something to grab a wide receiver at that in the first round, with their very first pick, and they were thinking something different. And to be honest, after looking at everything and seeing everything about it, and seeing the player that they picked, I honestly have really came around to it, and I'm loving this pick to a degree. Obviously, we got to see how he works out, but the potential is, I mean, wow. To begin with, a very crazy stat that I heard about this player is that he didn't allow a touchdown grab in 299 coverage snaps, and I heard it from 2 people. And having seen that and having looked around, I mean, it's no joke. This guy is, with the testing he had, running a 4.52 40, he can cover tight ends and running backs, and apparently that let him not allow a touchdown in 299 coverage snaps. Of course, he is a big guy, 6'4", 240, I believe, somewhere around there. So dude is definitely has potential to be incredible. Of course, this, a lot of this comes, a lot of his stats and a lot of everything, his tape is coming from this season, because he did only start, he was only a 1-year starter this past season. Of course, Georgia has had a few good players coming out of the draft previously, so and their defense has just gotten better throughout the season, so it's not surprising to see that a player as good as him was only coming around to really play this season. And I mean, he did play over 600 snaps, and I mean, like I said, those 299 coverage snaps, so they played him in coverage a lot more than anything. He did have, he is versatile though. He did have 114 pass rush snaps and 148 run defense snaps. So he only missed 3 tackles this season, and times that he did play the past few seasons. He only missed 3 last season and 1 in 2019 when he played minimally, so he didn't miss many tackles. Obviously, it wasn't a starter time, but guy was yeah, um, he was something else to see. Now, as far as everything goes, now to see how he develops behind Devondre Campbell, who they brought back this past season. I mean, honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how he develops behind Devondre Campbell, because yes, of course, they have him and Chris Barnes back there. But it's going to be interesting to see how he comes into his own, seeing as to where he already brings this talent. So the pure potential that he brings, and that you have between having 2 fantastic inside linebackers, and I think I heard somebody say it best. It's been ages since the Packers didn't have a problem at linebacker. I mean, we went from having a group of Nick Barnett, Desmond Bishop, AJ Hawk, Clay Matthews. I mean, and AJ Hawk was around for a while. But age caught up to him. He wasn't the same player in his last season. He was fantastic, but he wasn't that guy anymore. We all know about Desmond Bishop, and it sucks. Nick Barnett also, and that something else. Clay Matthews was around for even longer than all of them fellas, so obviously he was a young gun, but he was around longer than all of them. Well, we ended up moving him inside because we literally didn't have anybody at inside linebacker. So now we have 2 with a great reserve in Chris Barnes. So inside linebacker is not an issue for the Packers anymore, and they can keep Isaiah McDuffie as a special teams player and let Chris Barnes and Isaiah McDuffie be special teams players. I mean, athletic guys, and the whole point of this year was to make the special teams better, and why not let Chris Barnes take his smarts and kind of develop out in the carve his role out in special teams, and then playing spots at defense. I mean, they need all the help they can get, and he's a great tackler, and he lays the boom, and he's smart. He's a smart player, so this is going to be fun to see how they play it out. If they, immediately have him start, or if they make him wait behind Chris Barnes and let Chris Barnes prove himself out, or we'll see how that goes. Either way, moving on to Devonte Wyatt, pick number 28 overall. This one was exciting because I called it before he announced it, and you can see that I'm in the shorts. That was fantastic. That was exciting. Either way, though, seeing him on the board and seeing the Packers take him, they needed defensive line help, and in the worst way possible. And shoot, Devonte Wyatt being right there was a gift. I tell you, he was a gift. He is definitely older than what the Packers usually take as far as a prospect goes. So he's 24, but he's most likely a day one starter next to Kenny Clark, honestly. Because I think he has a lot more talent than Dean Lowry, um, Jack Heflin. You know, they might let Jerron Reed start a lot more, start a bit more, but you know it's gonna be a rotation. So I think the best, and that's honestly gonna be the best thing out there, because they signed Jerron Reed, who's a great player in his own right, and to play next to Kenny Clark. But now they have Devontae White also there for the rotation, so maybe Kenny Clark is going to be a little more productive because he's going to be a little a little fresher off the bench sometimes, because they can put in Jerron Reed and Devontae White. Devontae White is a great pass rusher. He was seen out of the two defensive tackles in Georgia. Jordan Davis was seen as that run stuffer, and he was seen as that. And Devontae White was seen as the pass rusher, and he did play a lot more pass rush snaps than defenses, run defense snaps. So, but you can see the upside, and he's a big man. He's 6'4", 303, so he's not no joke size. And it's exciting to see that. What he can do. If I'm not mistaken, he's also coming into a 1 or 2 year starter. Because if I'm not mistaken, but he has been around for a minute now, and he, like I said, he is an over prospect either way. Didn't exactly look at how many seasons he has been. So I did see about 3 seasons past his past stats though, and pretty. I mean, this past season with the dominance that Georgia had, he was quietly fantastic. So, honestly, as far as Devontae White goes, I didn't expect him to be there for the Packers. I thought if anything, the Packers would have to pick him at 22 if they wanted him. But at 28, I think that's going to be great for him, the Packers, and all of us, because we can rest easy knowing they got somebody to start next to Kenny Clark. So, moving on to Christian Watson at pick 34. This guy, I am. It's gonna take a minute for me to come around, but I can see, the concerns for the drop concerns is just all it is, because out of 120 catchable passes, meaning like he's free, and he dropped 16 of those. But when you look at the reality, the guy. Okay, so if you take apart the 120 catchable passes, that's not considering the contested catches and the fact that the guy produced tremendously. Even with those 16 dropped catchable passes, kind of tells you a lot of what the guy can do after the catch, and possibly with the contested catches. Now, he wasn't known for that because he has that blazing 4.36 speed. He was wide freaking open more than half the time. So, seeing as to where the Packers went in the later rounds, and we'll talk about that, I, they're probably not going to just let him be that vertical run this one fly route and let it be. I think they're gonna let him try to become that number one, that X receiver. Which, if he can really reach that potential, that'd be something. That'd be really fantastic. Scary. I mean, we see what DK Metcalf is doing out there, and of course, he is a 6'3", 6'4" dude, 200 something, 20 something pounds. Well, Christian Watson is a thinner, 208, 6'4", 208. So not exactly the same guy, but the pure potential is there, and you can kind of see it. It's kind of like one of those things of like the kind of catches of where he thought he just had it, and he just wasn't focused on it, didn't look it in. Just dropping the what is it? The focus. That's all they're questioning. I mean, yeah. So if you can kind of let that go and kind of look in every pass and really make sure that he makes the catch before he goes and does what he's got to do. I mean, imagine those 16 catches. Shoot, with the way he was going, he was gonna hit another 200 something yards. So, I mean, just adding more into his yardage stats. I mean, I don't think they need that. That's a potential of like 2 or more touchdowns for that man. So, I don't think they wanted those stats to be up there, but we'll see if he can kind of quell those concerns and make a name for himself and continue the legacy of Packers getting number 2, picking round 2 receivers and making them number 1s. But it's exciting to see. We'll see how it goes. So let's move on to pick number 92, Sean Rhyan, and I actually really like this pick. I did talk about it in my pre-draft video that they need a versatile tackle and guard player that played tackle but can move to guard, because I think what they need is that tackle position. Now, the thing about Sean Rhyan is that the more I think about it, the more I remember everything that I've heard from the beginning of the draft draft season, should I say, to now. I've heard that Sean Rhyan is probably going to move inside to guard, but he was a 3-year starter at left tackle. Of course, the concerns about how his fear of speed can kind of get him off balance and really get him caught on some moves by the speedy rushers. They want him to move inside because he has the build and the all the traits basically just to be a great guard, but somebody that can play tackle for you in a pinch if you need that. So we'll see how it'll be exciting, because I think, like I said in the video of Sean Rhyan and Christian Watson, an offensive line of David Bakhtiari, Sean Ryan, Josh Myers, John Runyon, and Elgton Jenkins. I mean, if keeping Rodgers clean is the number one priority, these fellas have done it right. He's not the only, and I mean, you know, protecting Rodgers and getting weapons for him was really an emphasis here. Besides the defense, here in the beginning and then later on in later rounds, but moving on to the but I mean, before I move on, as far as Sean Ryan goes, just know I love the pick, and if he moves into guard and he becomes that starting left guard, I will be ecstatic if he can win that left guard position and make John Runyon move over to right guard, force it or make him get him into a competition with Royce Newman over at right guard, and then Elgton Jenkins is playing right tackle. I mean, sheesh. The possibilities that offensive line has at this point, honestly, just the pure versatility that they all have is just fantastic. And I mean, the only reason I say that I love the Sean Ryan pick and moving him into guard is because of the later picks that they've made. So we'll talk about that later. Now, here's why I say that they're probably not going to make Christian Watson that just go fly that one number, that one fly rat or whatever, is because at pick 132, they chose a favorite of mine, Romeo Doubs, who has the potential to be a great vertical threat. He is already a vertical threat in his own right, but he has a very limited route tree, and his route running isn't exactly the fanciest. He'll get open, but he's got a blazing 40. He's got a blazing 40, and aside from that, I mean, get him the ball in short yardage, and he'll make some guys miss because of his 40 and making guys miss. He does have some return experience, which is fantastic for the Packers because they need special teams in the worst way. So it'll be exciting to see if they put him back there as a returner or if they are planning to use him as an outside deep threat kind of guy, because he is a 6'1", 200 pounds, so if I'm not mistaken. So the pure, the upside of that there, him having size, and 6'2" is 201. So the size and the speed is just a great prospect. As far as everything else goes, like I said, he was a favorite of mine for the later rounds. I did do a few mock drafts where I was able to grab him in the later rounds, which that was exciting because, they needed a bigger, taller guy who can be a deep threat, and so probably instead of throwing Christian Watson out there and making him just be that one fly route, now you got to think about the potential of Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. Now, speed was a point of emphasis for receivers that the Packers made this season, and boy, 2 out of 2 so far. Christian Watson at a 4.36 speed and 6'4" monster size. Potential could be great. And now Romeo Doubs at 6'2", 201 with his 4.4 40. All right, man. And now the Packers are really cooking, got potential to really do some damage here. You know what I mean? So aside from that, yeah, he honestly, I can't say more about it. He was a favorite. I'm excited that the Packers got the potential that he has. He was Carson Strong's guy. So, I mean, shoot. Uh, he led his team in touchdown. He tied for the lead in touchdowns in the past 2 seasons in the FBS and had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons on with a limited route tree and the route running and just a vertical fly guy. But I mean, he was wide open, and he has that speed, and he can make a one cut or here and there to get himself open. But the press is where that'll stop him from there. But if he can really work himself out to do everything, this could be fantastic for the Packers. Truthfully, at that point, you wouldn't be afraid of letting Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb go next season, because you got Romeo Doubs sitting right there. And if Amari Rodgers works out the way we all want him to, then that'd be great, no? So, yeah. Moving on to the next pick, which is why I'm excited about Sean Rhyan staying in guard, or I'm okay with Sean Rhyan staying at guard, is mainly because we have at pick 140 Zach Tom, versatile tackle and center. He had good pass protection. I'm watching a little bit of his tape. He had good push off the line, but he could disengage a little early, so sometimes that might make the running back have to do a little more work than what they should. He could leave that lane wide open, but it is what it is. And then his handwork and pass protection, sometimes some players will catch him out. He'll get back, he'll recover and put his hands right up, but he could really do better to keep his hands up and make sure that his hands are inside and not out there. But great dude. Excited because he played center at first and then left tackle for the majority of the rest of it. So he could move over to right tackle potentially, if anything, or be a back tackle, or be a competition for Josh Myers at center. And if he manages to beat him out, I mean, go ahead, bro. You got it. It'll be good. Honestly, and besides that, just the fact of having depth at offensive line, that's something that I talked about, depth at offensive line. So now having Sean Rhyan be able to move to guard, and then having Zach Tom be a tackle and center, you can have him compete for that center position. If not, he can back up either tackle or center position, which is, kind of a breath of relief for the Packers, because, the injuries they had these past seasons. Yeah, it let us find out that we had some real good players on the offensive line, but we were missing just a couple more for that. We were missing that guy, like that David Bakhtiari. We were missing David Bakhtiari. We were also missing Elgton Jenkins for a hot minute. So, just having the depth to not be afraid of losing those guys is fantastic. And Josh Myers went down for a little while too. We had Lucas Patrick playing center for a minute. Now he went to the Bears, and so we needed another center that could play. So Good pickup by the Packers. I'm happy about that one. Now here in the 5th round, they traded back. They traded back with the Broncos, picked up another 7th rounder, so now they have 4 7th rounders. But the player they picked, Kingsley Enagbare. Oh, edge rusher from South Carolina, and I couldn't be more excited because he was consistently rated a top 100 player, and they got him at 179. I mean, he could, if he ends up working out his potential, because let's be frank, the guy, even though he's seen as a kind of raw, they're saying he could work on his pass rush moves, and things of the sort. So, and I've heard the term "bull in the china shop" be used with him. So, if the guy can refine his pass rush moves, or work up some and refine them, this, and already mix that with what he brings, because he, even with all that, I mean, he seemed to be one of the more productive defensive ends in the SEC, or rather in his team. On his team, last season, I mean, he was seen as a real high prospect. Before an injury kind of got him down, and this season he wasn't on the same road as he was last season, so people weren't as high on him. I guess that kind of explains his drop to the 5th round, but I mean, if he can play like he was playing that last season, even then, he's not to say he did produce at all this past season. He still kind of was up there in the top for the defensive line in South Carolina alone. So, potential steal of the draft, I would be ecstatic. Regardless, he's going to be a fantastic number 3 rotational pass rusher behind Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary. And if he can take advantage of having somebody like Preston Smith ahead of him, and another young guy like Rashawn Gary next to him, oh shoot, boy, I'd say take advantage of it all the way. I do think he made make the transition to an outside linebacker kind of defensive pass rusher, or outside linebacker pass rusher, rather than sitting with his hand in the dirt at defensive end, because he was a defensive end in college, but he's a little small for a defensive end in the NFL. 6'3", 248. You know, he'll get pushed around by the big old tackles. So he needs to move outside of that and kind of get the speed and pass rush moves to get around that, rather than get pushed by big men inside. But I was ecstatic about that pick. I'm happy that they went out and grabbed a pass rusher and somebody who was seen highly and took a fall. And he was really a player that took a fall. Truthfully, a lot of people had him going as late as the 4th, 5th round. So it's truthfully exciting. So now we can moving on to. They didn't have a 6th round pick, so until pick 228, when they picked Tariq Carpenter, who's seen as a safety linebacker hybrid. I mean, he is a big dude. He's 6'3", 230. But I mean, you bring you are basically bringing experience. Honestly, with him, he was a starter basically 4 out of the 5 seasons that he was in college. Uh, he played 51 games, was a starter for 42, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 41 games and 41 of 52 games. So he's a seasoned guy. He's got experience playing the position. He knows what to do at safety or a linebacker hybrid. So most likely that's the guy that they're gonna play in sub package, uh, or kind of in the box kind of guy. That might actually let Darnell Savage move around a little more freely into coverage and not have to rely on him to run stop. He's not bad, but he's not an in the box. Like, he hasn't really proven that he's an in the box guy. His coverage is fantastic, but runs, I don't know. Yeah, I think it could relieve Darnell Savage from it. But I mean, either way, Tariq Carpenter, he does have a little bit to develop into something. Like I said, he is a safety linebacker hybrid. So what the Packers really want him to do, who knows? They did they. He was listed mostly as a safety, so I think that's the position he wants to play. That's the position he's comfortable playing. But it'll be interesting to see what the Packers do with him. He did have decent athletic score, so having being a big dude with a good athletic score, that's where the Packers go for. And I mean, the guy did have a good season this past season. As far as for himself, he had his career high in tackles, with a few picks and a couple passes defended. So it'll be interesting. They did need a safety, or another defensive back, so it's good to see that they did that and went out and got one of them. Their next 7th round pick at 234 was Jonathan Ford. And this was the pick that was acquired from the Denver Broncos from the trade down. He's a 6'5", 333-pound defensive tackle, but he didn't produce too much. I mean, he came out with 60 total tackles in 50 games played, and he was a starter for 30 of them. So not the highest production. He was a 3-star recruit, so he wasn't seen as a top guy to begin with. So at this point, and it is the 7th round, so people always, as far as this goes, you either got traits that are interesting, or you produce but you have an injury history or something. Something's there, and at this point, is this guy just didn't really produce too much in college. So, but it's exciting. It's another defensive tackle, another defensive lineman. They did need that, and the depth, having battled it out with Dean Lowry and Jack Heflin, and I don't think they really have him battled out with TJ Slayton. They like him a little more, but we'll see how that goes. He'll probably end up as a practice squad guy, but if you can realize the potential of a 6'5", 333 guy, watch out for this Packers defensive line. Yeah, so I mean, that's all I could really see on this guy, or really find on Jonathan Ford. So we'll move on to their Next pick, which is 249, they pick Rasheed Walker, 6'6", 3-year starter at left tackle. And truthfully, this guy, injury concerns dropped him really low. Few people had him as a 4th rounder, so on talent, so 4th or 5th rounder. So you might have something here. If the guy can stay healthy, then all right. Yeah, there were a few concerns besides the injury ones, really. Excuse me. And really only this past season. He played a lot better in 2019 and 2020 than he did this past season. He was a better run blocker than pass blocker this past season. At left tackle, that's not the way it's supposed to go. Because his pass block grade was pretty low to begin with, so he struggled mildly. Needless to say, he struggled this season. And injuries didn't help. So if this guy can stay healthy and realize his 2019-2020 form and show what he had there, for the people that were thinking that he would go 2 or 3 rounds earlier, he'll be a good depth piece. Most likely he's probably battling somebody like Cole Van Lannon for the last spot or something like that, or yeah, because or somebody like Jake Hansen or something. I don't really see him as an instant guy. But if he can prove everybody wrong, I mean, dude, I am all for it, because the Packers, that offensive line depth, I mean, shoot, they went offensive line 3 times. And to finish it off, because, there's not much to say about Rasheed Walker. And I ain't trying to make this video any much longer than what it already is. To triple down on another position, the Packers go wide receiver Samori Toure at 258. He is a taller slot guy, I think, at 6'1", 191. With that thin frame, he's not really gonna be outside and get on those press coverage corners. They'll eat him up every time at 191. Although, he's not anything bad. To begin with, the guy transferred from Montana, so he came out of Nebraska this season. But at Montana, he tore it up. He had 1,495 yards and 13 touchdowns in 2019 before he transferred over to Nebraska in 2020, and then got to play in 2021. Oh, I mean, he was used as a gadget player. He's not the most explosive player, but he does run a 4.4. He only had a 34.5 inch vert, so not the most explosive, but again, the speed is there. He can always work out. Now with NFL coaches at 6'1", he can buff up a little bit, and he was already a gadget player, so imagine he buffs up to a nice 205 or something. If he can really do what he brought from Montana over, and the experience of a gadget player, having ran touchdowns, he ran for like 60 something yards on a few carries and touchdown. I mean, we all know Matt LaFleur loves running sweeps sometimes, so if he has himself a gadget player that with NFL trainers and everything, they can build him up. I mean, this might be a great pick. in the 7th round. Shoot. And the fact that they tripled down on receiver and shoot, it's gonna be great because at this point, it's kind of like they see Samori Toure as that developmental guy with the potential to really come out of nowhere. Romeo Dubs having already been somebody's number one, and if he can develop his route tree and everything else, and then Christian Watson, if he can really take that potential as that X receiver, that number one guy. I mean, learn behind Sammy Watkins of what it is to be that number one guy, and then take it from him. This Packers wide receiver core should be okay for a little bit. Aside from that, they triple down on tackle, or tackle, guard, center, offensive line, should I say. They triple down on that. So the fact that they got a potential a backup at tackle, a potential starter at guard, and a potential starter at tackle or center, or backup. I mean, if two of those three guys can stay on the squad, and one goes to the practice squad, I won't be mad about it. Same thing with the receivers. If it ends up being Romeo Dubs and Christian Watson on the squad, and Samori Toure has to wait a little bit before he actually comes up, so be it. We got our edge for rotation in Kingsley and Nagmari. I'm excited about it because the dude produced in the SEC, even with limited tools. If it was pure effort and savviness, I mean, if he can add tools to himself, this man can be something great for the Packers, or at least a fantastic rotational player, which is what the Packers usually want anyways. They want a rotation of players, so it would be good. They got 2 defensive tackles in Jonathan Ford and Devontae Wyatt. Jonathan Ford is most likely a practice squad guy, but that's kind of what you always think about with 7th and 6th rounders. You're not really thinking instant backup or starters. Always, you do get some surprises, but I don't really see Jonathan Ford doing that. But aside from that, and then they did grab a safety linebacker hybrid, which is also kind of like good to think about, in the sense of like they needed a slot guy. Imagine this man being a huge slot guy that can actually do something there. If he can pull that off, I mean, holy cow. A 6'3", 230 slot man. I don't want to look at him. I wouldn't want to look at him. And then a linebacker for now and future, and the potential to stop the run and defend the pass. This defense could look one of two ways. It could look fantastic, or they may not have picked the right fits. You never know with these prospects, but the potential is very exciting. We all know that there is high potential in this draft. Their great players fell, and some of them fell to the Packers. So the Packers did great to move around, and maybe they did it didn't go exactly the way we thought, but you can't say that as a Packers fan you're not satisfied with this draft. um I am. I'm excited. I'm happy with it. I can with the off-season moves they made. This draft was, in my opinion, a great compliment to it. I knew they weren't gonna grab a tight end in this draft. It would have been nice to grab one, but the only one I really would have wanted was Jake Ferguson. Uh, wasn't there, couldn't do it. Oh well. Uh, it happens, but most likely next season though, next draft they'll look for one, or they'll probably grab one off the streets, or they might just be happy with the tight end group they got. And I mean, I'm not upset with it. Sure, Tunyon is injured, so I don't know. Big dog Lewis is back, so he's our solid run blocker and sneaky good receiver. And we do have Josiah DeGuara, our H back, so and Dominique Daffy's there, and they have a decent group. There's always undrafted free agents, and there are a few that are exciting that are out of there. So we'll see how that goes. Well, we also got to see who their undrafted free agents are, because they could find some really great players out there, and we don't know about it. We'll look at the undrafted free agents after everything dies down, because all these guys are going to be getting signed left and right for the next few days anyways. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, yeah, that's this draft was great. Comment down below. Let me know what you think about this Packers draft, or what you think about your team's drafts. Keep a lookout. I'm gonna do a reaction video to all the other teams. I'm not gonna get too far into it, but just off of first glance, instant reaction, because you really can't judge these drafts until like maybe 2 or 3 seasons down the road. But out of the instant initial reaction, I'll go off of that, and that'll come here in the next few days. I do have to do my homework on the other 31 teams, because but there's a lot of picks, but we'll see how that goes. Either way though, yeah, like, subscribe if y'all could. I'd appreciate y'all watching, and stay tuned for next time. I'm out, and remember, go Pack, go.